last Sunday, didn't have the family around, and so what do you do on a Sunday afternoon when there's no family? You make Scotch eggs, like we do, right? If you don't know what Scotch eggs are, you take a hard-boiled egg, and Julie, like, that's a non-starter for me. Oh, you haven't? Okay. Shaking your head like that sounds disgusting already. But no, it's amazing. So you take this hard-boiled egg, and then you take some sausage and some breadcrumbs and kind of pack that around the egg, and then you deep fry it. And it's amazing, especially with a little bit of brown mustard. So, but I was going to take him to doings that were there, and so I was like, well, I'll just make these. And so I'm trying to make these things, and I thought, oh, give me an hour, it'll be fine. And like 2 hours later, I'm still making these dumb things. And now the reason I made them, not just because they're delicious, but I knew about them because my mother used to make them all the time. And so I thought, well, I'll just kind of throw these together. And in the middle of making them, I thought, how in the world did my mom make these? And now that might be just like something for you to say, oh yeah, my mom, she was a great cook and all that. But my mom, as a child, had meningitis and tuberculosis. She spent the early years of her life in a hospital in England where she grew up, and my grandmother would go see her on the weekends, but she spent most of her time in this ward trying to get better, and it was not a guarantee that she would. At some point along the way in her childhood, broke her hand, and it never healed right. So she had no feeling in her right hand, and her hand was kind of like this. And lost hearing in her left ear as well. So my mom had some real just things that had happened to her that made it so that she should have been just really, life would have been much more difficult. And yet she raised 4 kids. She was really proud of that first one. And then after that, brothers watching, that's for you, bud. But also was a nurse, became a nurse, and was just really beloved and skilled in her field, even having this problem with her hand. And that's the thing I couldn't understand. I'm having a hard time getting this sausage around this egg, and my mom didn't even have like full function, but she could still do it. And I'm just, the more I think about my mom, I'm kind of amazed by who she was. I'm actually preaching out of her Bible here this morning instead of my Bible. One of the things I got after she had passed away. But so she is one of the early models for motherhood for me, and I have had many, many since. I would be remiss if I didn't say that I think, and sorry, Mary and Julie, that my wife is the greatest mom in the world. So she is just a wonderful example, far exceeding just anything I could expect. And so thankful for all those examples. It is good and right to recognize mothers. And the Bible has much to say about motherhood, and especially for when you think about the Old Testament. And I know that a lot of people say that the Old Testament, it doesn't treat women very well. Well, have you done any reading about ancient cultures and how they treated women? The Old Testament and God's revelation to the way that women would be treated in Israel were cutting edge. I mean, it would look like feminism, American feminism, compared to the way that the women were treated in ancient cultures. And so let's do away with this nonsense that Christianity is against women or is propping up the patriarchy or something like that, okay? But because in these cultures, women were not always valued or respected, even by their children. So we have that, but let's also say that biblical motherhood is worth pursuing, it's worth supporting, and it's worth encouraging where we see it. That's important. The job of mothering has gotten, in some ways, easier, would you agree? And in some ways, harder. It's gotten easier because there are so many resources. You have so many different parenting tips, blogs and podcasts, and if you don't know, somebody else has an idea of something they've done. There's so many different products out there that just make, in some ways, mothering a lot easier. But it's also harder because there are so many expectations of you. And sometimes it can feel kind of crushing, all the things that a mom is supposed to know how to do and is supposed to be able to just do, right? And many of them often work as well. And maybe you, like my mom, had to work just to kind of support the family and make things go. Society at large wants well-behaved children, and yet there's also this frowns on correction, on corporal punishment, and on religious training. So you young moms have a tough row to hoe because there are these things that make it easier, yeah, but harder as well. And anything that we as a church can do to make things easier for you, we absolutely want to. We want to encourage you. We want to support you. We want you to be the best, godliest mother that you can be. So where do we find this standard? I'm going to look at Proverbs chapter 31, because it's not just a virtuous woman, but as we see in the passage, she's also a mother, and so worth talking about here. Proverbs 31 is a famous passage on the virtuous woman. Now, the word virtuous here, the Hebrew word behind it is often in other places translated wealth, or even army, or valiant, or strong. So don't think of a virtuous woman as someone who's just like a pilgrim or a Puritan, just always like, I would never do that. The word means strong or army or valiant. So this is what we're talking about here, okay? No weak woman. We're talking about a one that is full of all the right kinds of things. Now, I know that when you come to church and you hear, oh, great, there's going to be a message about the Proverbs 31 woman. How many of you have ever in your life, you don't have to say right now, but ever in your life thought that woman, if she exists, it holds an impossible standard for us, right? You're like, I could never be the Proverbs 31 woman, right? Let me say three things about that. One, she is in some ways an amalgamation. Okay, it's not one woman who did all these things. She's the best of everything. So it's not like there's this one perfect woman that you have to emulate. She's an amalgamation. Number two, she represents a high standard, not an expectation. You don't have to do all these things. We're just reaching for the goal, right? We all, as men, can I just leave the women behind for a moment? Men, we all know what an ideal body looks like. We're not bothered by that. We also know that we're not it, right? We're just like... Yeah, you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, close enough, and that's fine. So we understand, like, it's good to have a standard, and we're not, like, beating ourselves down, and you shouldn't either, ladies, because you don't look exactly like this. It's a high standard, and that's okay. There's a bar that's really high. Number three, I think that by God's grace, you can better reflect her. So this isn't here, work on this, be better, lady. This is the standard of God. It's a high standard, and by the grace of Christ and the help of the Holy Spirit, you can more reflect what God says. This is what a valiant, virtuous, strong woman, mother, wife looks like. So let's just put that in context, okay? Now, where does this come from? Now, this is a little bit of a tangent, but I'm connecting it to our Life of David series, because if you look at verse number 1, the words of King Lemuel, I don't remember any kind of King Lemuel in the Bible, right? Well, the word Lemuel means of or belonging to God, and probably most scholars think this word Lemuel was a pet name. It was what he says here, the prophecy that his mother taught him, that was the king's. That was what his mother called him, Lemuel, of God, belonging to God. Now, question, who wrote the book of Proverbs? Well, Solomon did. Okay, so who was Solomon's mother? Bathsheba. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? She, as a godly woman, taught him these things, and God said, that's what I want written down in the Bible. And so I understand that most of the authors of the Bible were men. But let's just also acknowledge that there's a little part here that was used by God to write Scripture. So this prophecy, from an earthly perspective, came from Bathsheba, who is famous not for being a godly woman, is she? She's famous for being a part of something that was really hurtful and really awful, and not putting David off the stand at all. I'm just saying that there was a willingness there that we can say, praise God, that even if you feel like this morning you're not a Proverbs 31 woman, here's Bathsheba who says, this is the standard, ladies. And we all say, okay, all right, there's a standard we can try to attain, right? There is hope for mothers trying to make it. That's what I'm trying to say. So what are the biblical expectations for a woman that we see here in Proverbs 31? Expectation number one is hard work. You already knew this. Nothing here is earth-shattering, but hard work. Notice what she does, and this is why so many of you hate her, because you're like, there's no way I'm doing all these things. Brother Rod read it already, but let me just start here in verse number 10 and just note, I'll kind of point out some things as we go along. Verse number 10, who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. The heart of her husband doth safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. Now here, verse 13, notice, she seeketh wool and flax and worketh willingly with her hands. She spins clothing. We see that in verses 19 and 22 as well. She's industrious. Verse 14, she is like the merchant's ships. She bringeth her food from afar. She riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household and a portion to her maidens. Verse 16, she considereth a field and buyeth it. With the fruit of her hands she planteth a vineyard. She is buying and cultivating property. Verse 17, she girdeth her loins with strength and strengtheneth her arms. She perceiveth that her merchandise is good. Her candle goeth not out by night. She layeth her hand to the spindle, and her whole hands hold the distaff. She stretcheth out her hand to the poor. Yea, she reacheth forth her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She maketh herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sitteth among the elders of the land. She maketh fine linen and selleth it, and delivereth girdles unto the merchant. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. She openeth her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. She looketh well to the ways of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness. Her children arise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praiseth her. Many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellest them all. Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. So we see that she, again, spins clothing. She's buying and selling. She's in the merchant stalls. She's doing things. She isn't lazy or idle. Verse 27, she looketh well to the ways of her household and eateth not the bread of idleness. Jeb, you know what we call eating the bread of idleness? Loafing. Around. Notice how many times the word hands shows up. In verse 13, verse 16, verse 17, arms, verse 19, verse 20, verse 31. Her hands are always busy. They're always going. They're always moving. She's working hard. Notice the word strength in verse 17 and verse 25. We see that she is not gathering dust. Now, moms work hard. Verse number 18. It says that she keeps the lamps going. It's all the time. And I know moms, for you, it feels like, when do I get a break? And hopefully you can find a little one here this afternoon. But it says, look at her, candle goeth not out by night. There's always something more to do. There's always something more to plan. There's always something that needs to be done now. These balls need to get rolling now for later. I've been told that we spend about 37 minutes a day in preparing and cooking food. That's 400 hours a year. That's 3 whole years of your life preparing food, average. Laundry, most of us spend 240 hours a year. That's 30 weeks of your life just on laundry. And Terry, you're like, it sounds like a lot more than that. It feels like a lot more than that, and probably for you it is. We spend on our life 28 months cleaning. Just, there's a lot of work to do, and you don't always kind of aggregate that, but that's what it is. And that's not even counting the stuff that you as moms think of really matter. Like the actual mothering part, the counseling, the listening, the impromptu field trips, taking your kids out in the community, the shopping, or for those of you who are involved in homeschooling or after-school schooling, there's so much that you have to know how to do, and that's all what you feel like is like the real mothering, and everything else just kind of has to happen to make things go, right? You'd rather spend a lot of time, more time on these things than these things, and it's all part of it. Some of you even work outside the home, and you're still involved in church and other things as well. There's a lot of hard work. We want to recognize that this morning and say, yeah, you're being that Proverbs 31 woman. She doesn't rest as much as she'd probably like, but she's always going. So let me give you some things to remember. One, your work creates stability. Notice in verse number 11 that when she is working, when she does what she can, the heart of her husband doth safely trust in her. I like that phrase, safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. When she can do what she can in the home, he can go do the things that are important to him. He doesn't need to go out, like the idea he has no need of spoil. He doesn't have to go join the army to go see if he can win a war and bring something back. He doesn't have to do something desperate. When she operates in her areas of expertise well, he can work in his areas well as well. And gentlemen, listen, if you've got a wife who's helping you by holding down the fort at home, then it's your job, it's your responsibility, it's an opportunity for you to do right by her outside the home, because she's making it easier for you to do that. Verse 21 says that the work that you do today is for the storms of life later. Look, notice in verse 21, she is not afraid of the snow for her household. Like, she hears that a snowstorm's coming, she hears that the weather's going to drastically change. Doesn't matter. She's not worried about that because she's made preparations for that already. Her children already have the clothing they need. I don't have to go out to the stall. I don't have to run to Walmart and find the thing. Now, again, ladies, I'm not setting this impossible standard. I'm just saying, Proverbs 31 woman, she just knows, okay, I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking ahead. I'm making preparations. Now we're ready for whatever happens. And when the storms of life come, she's not very shaken because she's made preparations for that. Your work creates stability. That's a wonderful thing. You can't put a price on that stability. 2, your work is for God's purposes. Notice in verse number 30 that all this culminates in this, but a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. All of that comes before that, how do you sum it all up? She's someone who fears the Lord. That's why, that's what motivates her. That's what brings her motivation to do the things that she's doing, because she fears the Lord. And I'll just remind you of Colossians 3, verse 23, whatsoever you do it heartily as to the Lord and not unto men. Can I just say, if you're waiting for a thanks from your kids, ask some of the ladies in our church, it might be few and far between. Not that your kids aren't thankful, but you just don't hear it as much as you'd probably like. But you know who is watching and keeping track and is grateful for your attitude in serving your children? That's the Lord. And when your reference is to the Lord to glorify Him, that's the only one that you need to please. Okay? I hope that you hear from your children today and that they express all the gratitude and even more than they have. I hope that all of that's true. And whether it is or not, I believe as you faithfully serve, you will hear from the Lord one day, well done, my good and faithful servant. I'll say third then, your work invests in the future. Again, notice in verse 27, she looketh well. It doesn't say to her household. It says she looketh well to the ways of her household, the way that it's going, the course that it's in. Everything that's going on, she can see ahead. She is looking out for that. She looketh well to the ways of her household. And so it's important for you to remember that. Now, some practical points. 1, cherish those high points. I know that very often it's very easy for you to think about the failings, the things that you wish you would have done, the things that you didn't do right. Can I just encourage you this morning? It's Mother's Day. Just thank God for the high points. Reflect on the high points. You don't have to go to the dark place where all these things that you didn't do. Can you just say that you're grateful that the Lord worked in your heart and then you have some real successes? Can you take the win? Can you, again, I mean, not in a prideful way, but just like acknowledge that God's used you in some amazing ways to do his work. And you should appreciate that. It's okay to be thankful for that. It's okay to say, I'm really happy for those things. You're doing well. The kids are learning. They are changing. Verse 25 says, she shall rejoice in time to come. Ask any mature mother here, that time will come. You'll be able to have the perspective to look back and thank God for it. Some practical point number 2 is this, that we as a church should help ease the burden as we can. I mentioned this on Wednesday night, I think it was, or sometime. No, it was last Sunday night, that when I was growing up, there were ladies in our church. I remember 2 in particular, Grandma Sarah and Grandma Ruth. Grandma Sarah lived over by the post office in Wakarusa, and Grandma Ruth lived right around the corner from us, but we would go to their house. And Grandma Sarah was kind of our babysitter. And I don't remember much about her except that her house smelled funny because she was older, and it was the 80s, before they figured out, hey, we can probably get rid of this smell or cover it up. But I remember she had white hair, right? So she was not a young grandma. She was someone, but just wanted to help watch the kids in the church. And I don't know what my mom had to do. Maybe sleep. I mean, honestly, whatever she had to do, it doesn't matter. We just got to go to Grandma Sarah's house, and it was great. And we got to go to Grandma Ruth's house around the corner, and she had little Bible clubs that she would do. And again, older women. Again, for me, they were just way old. Maybe they were your age, right? Not way old, but you can be a blessing. You can be a help. We can help ease that burden because mamas are working hard. And maybe your load has been lightened a little bit, but you think back to those ladies that really invested in you and helped you, and maybe you just commit to, I'm going to be that for somebody else. I'm going to make sure that I dig in, and I'm going to help whoever is in need of that help. Young moms, it's okay to ask. It's okay to ask for help. Yep, no shame at all. Yeah, you as a mom say, hey, I just need a break. No mom in this room is going to be like, what, you can't handle it? Nope, we'll help, okay? So, characteristic number 1 is hard work. Characteristic number 2 is provision. Motherhood is giving. It is service. Notice that she, in verse 15, gives meat to her household. She prepares and serves food. Caleb and I worked on a little video where we were going to get reactions of the kids and ask them a series of the little kids. We got all these videos of the little kids, what do you like about your mom? And it was all cooking, cleaning. So we're not going to show this video because it's just no moms. That's all it was. It was cooking and cleaning. That's all the kids think about, right? They just when's the next meal, and why is mom always scrubbing the toilet, right? It's just that's all they think about. But they notice that is providing for your family. She also gives to her children, verses 21 and 22. She's not afraid of the snow of her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She maketh herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. She is often going without so that her children have what they need. I don't have to tell you that. You know it already. Whether you acknowledge it in your own life or not, we are acknowledging and that you very often will do without. Your Christmas present, the thing that you bought for yourself is secondhand. The thing you buy for your children is brand new. And I know that some of you still like to go to the thrift store, and I get it. I understand it. I'm just acknowledging that you've made a lot of sacrifices for your kids, and God sees that, and he sees that you're trying to provide for them. She also, and this is an amazing kind of thing I didn't really think through. I think we've always kind of thought about Proverbs 31 in reference to her home. But look at verse 20. She stretcheth out her hand to the poor. Yea, she reacheth forth her hands to the needy. And among all that she's doing for her husband and her children, she's also reaching out to the poor. She's also making a difference in her community. That's provision. Providing is not easy. Sometimes you want to provide and you just don't have enough. There's just not enough there to do the things you want to do. You say, man, I wish I could do this. And you look at the bank account and you say, not this month. And that's okay. That's okay. You have to make do. And sometimes you have to make do stretch even further. Sometimes you're called upon to give what you just don't have. Look at verse number 26. She openeth her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. Moms, when's the last time you got that question that you just didn't know the answer to? I'm supposed to be the font of wisdom. I'm supposed to have all the answers, and I just don't have the answers. That's tough. That's hard, but your kids are looking to you to provide those things. Sometimes you give and someone else is recognized. Look at verse 23. All these things that the woman's doing, she's helping the poor, she's doing these, and then in verse 23, her husband is known in the gates when he sitteth among the elders of the land. I don't know all of what that means. It's just kind of weird to be like, she's great. And her husband gets to just sit there and be like recognized for how great he is. Anyway, back to her. It's just kind of like he gets credit. Like she makes him look good. And sometimes in the course of life, it's just like, oh man, your family's so great. And we guys are kind of like, yeah, thanks. Just know that I didn't do as much as I should have. Like, this is all like our kids, they get an early diploma. They have an associate's degree before they graduated high school. And I'm like, it's her. It's not me. I tutored in math once, that whole year. And so it just, understand that often the recognition doesn't always land where it should, but again, the Lord sees it. There's a great reward in giving. We'll talk about that. So some things to remember. One, your provision is best when it's done with a giving heart. You provide the best. You do the best providing when it's given with a giving heart. Notice in verse number 13, she seeketh wool and flax and worketh willingly with her hands. That word willingly is in other places in the Old Testament translated pleasure or desire or delight. And I know sometimes it's hard to do the work that you do and think, this is a delight. This is wonderful. I'm so glad that I get to sweep the floor again within the last hour. This is so fun that my children left these dirty dishes for me and let all that food just cake on there so that I can use my elbow grease to get that off. I understand that there's always a temptation to kind of grumble. And the standard that we're setting is to work willingly with delight and pleasure with your hands. It's not a burden to give, even if it feels like it is, right? To say it's a burden to be a mother is a lie from Satan. Now, is it hard? Sometimes, yes. Is it meant to be a burden? Is it designed to be a burden by God? It's always really sad for me when people become parents and then they're just always like their whole life, their whole principles, everything goes out the window and all the things that they thought were right and were doing right all of a sudden are gone because they have kids. And it's like, well, no, kids are meant to be a help to you, not a burden. Kids are not supposed to take you away from church and your walk with the Lord. They're supposed to enhance it. And I know that you have 168 hours a week like everybody else, and it feels like you have less of that time. But kids are meant to be, family is meant to be a blessing, not a burden. 2, your provision is best when done with excellence. I want to talk about this in my third point, but I just want to point out verse number 18. She perceiveth that her merchandise is good. She perceives that it's good. She does quality control. She's trying to do her best. It's easy, very easy, we all know, to phone it in and to kind of just, I don't need to do the best I can. I can just kind of do this, and it's passable, and it's fine. And then I'll feel guilty about it later and deal with that later. And can I just encourage you, if that's the pattern, you kind of just, well, whatever, and then you feel guilty later, and then you try to make it up. Can I just encourage you to strive for excellency and consistency? Whether it's meal prep or discipline or purchases or homework, whatever it is, just strive for excellence. And I'll talk about that again. Number 3, your provision is a protection for the future. Notice in verse 27, I already pointed this out, but it says, she looketh well to the ways of her household. Now that word looketh well, again, if you looked at that Hebrew word and looked, where else is this in the Old Testament? You'd go to Ezekiel chapter 18, where it's not translated looketh well, it's translated a watchman. Someone who's on the tower. The word literally means to lean over and to peer, to be looking out for your family, to be watching for the dangers that might be coming, to see it afar off so that you can take action now. That's what a watchman does, right? So she is looking well. She's scanning the horizon, looking for, are there any dangers? Not just immediately. You don't wait for, like, well, you can play in the street as long as there aren't cars there. You tell your children, just don't play in the street. In fact, don't go within this line of it. That's what we tell our children because we say, I can see into the future where you can't. All you can see is, that's a fun place to play. I can rollerblade on the street. And we say, no, right? So we can see far ahead. And it's important for us to say that provision now is protection for the future. Proverbs chapter 14, verse 1. You don't have to turn there, but I'll just flip there real quick. Although this isn't my Bible, so it's a little harder to do this. It says, every wise woman buildeth her house, but the foolish plucketh it down with her hands. A wise woman builds, not plucks. And one of the things that Amy and I are learning in building our house is just how important the beginning is, how important the foundation is. I can't tell you how many times I've blessed our framer for putting up straight walls when it comes to do, and Nels is laughing, to do our cabinets, to do our trim, all of it, our doors. I'm just thankful for that foundation. And moms, it seems like you're not getting anywhere right now, but your provision is setting the tone for the future. And I'm not just talking about you with little children, even with you with adult children now. The things you do today are the things they're going to remember 10, 20, 30 years. Long after you're gone, they'll remember the things even that you're doing today. So some practical points. All right, kids that are left, there you are. Hey. Be thankful for what your mom does to provide for you. All right? Pitch in when you're not told, especially when you can tell she's struggling. You don't have to raise your hand, but kids, do you know when mom's struggling? Do you know when she needs a little help? That's not the time to be like, time to scoot away before I become the ire of that. You know, what might happen if I say the wrong thing? Just like, I'm going to pitch in. I'm going to ease some of the burden as much as I can. And honestly, even if it's something just like, I'm going to look for some garbage on the floor and pick it up, and I'm going to see if I'm going to go make my bed. Whatever it is that you can do, your mom will notice any little thing and appreciate it, and it will come from a heart of love. So for you. Now, again, for us, then, for you as a mother, remember what you have already provided. All right, remember what you've done. Be grateful for the way that God worked in your heart. I know, for you moms with adult kids, there are things you would change about the way that your kids are doing their life now, okay? Just forget about that for a moment and say, I'm so thankful for the way that God allowed me to invest in their lives early and to provide for them now. Again, just take the W. Today, take the W. Say, I'm going to thank God for how he used me for the good things. Leave the other things behind. Then I'll just say that we as a church should help provide and encourage those moms. All right, so we've said the qualities of a virtuous woman: hard work, and then provision, and then finally excellence. So notice as you read through this that she doesn't do anything part way. In verse number 13, she is diversifying her clothing options. It says that she has wool and flax. Well, wool for the cold weather and flax for the warm weather. She's got all of it right there. She's making sure that everything is where it needs to be. Verse number 14, she'll work harder to get a better or more prudent deal. She's like the merchant's ships. She brings her food from afar. I think that means that she's going to go look for the best deals. She isn't just kind of taking the convenient thing and again, excuse me, but good moms don't do their shopping at holiday. Like, you just know that the prices are going to be higher. You might have to have to pick something up once in a while, but that's not where you do your things. You think, okay, this is where I need to go. This is what I'm going to do. I have all this ready, and that's the standard that's set up there. In verse number 15, she gets up to get started even before her servants. Verse number 15, she riseth also while it is yet night and giveth meat to her household and a portion to her maidens. I think it's talking about servants. So she's ready to administrate everything. She's ready to do that. Verse 16, she weighs, she says she considereth the field. The word means to weigh or to plan or to plot the options for the best results. She's on top of that, and she says, this is what we need to do. There is excellence in all that she does. She works the land to purchase what is best. And verse 29 says, many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellest them all. There's a matter of excellence there. It's so easy to do things part way, especially when you feel that no one's watching and no one cares. Every person in this room has said at one point, good enough. It's okay. I don't have to be on point. And I understand that. I understand there are moments where you don't have to be working. It's okay. And don't feel guilty if you need to sit down for a moment. Heaven forbid you take an extra 3 minutes in the shower, just for you, just to kind of for a moment. It's okay. Take it, okay? I'm not trying to put any burden on you. I'm just saying that if all of those moments where you're like, good enough, it's fine, who cares, kind of string together and you notice a pattern in your life, let me just encourage you that the Proverbs 31 virtuous woman is someone who strives for excellence. We remember that we often remember from our childhood those little cutting remarks. Your mother could have been a very supportive, wonderful woman, and still you maybe remember those times she slipped. And is that fair? Absolutely not. Now, I wish I could go back and take back some of the things as a father that I said to my kids. It's just in a moment of carelessness, but that's the problem. It's in a moment of carelessness because I'm not striving for excellence, because I'm just kind of letting the mask slip a little bit. I'm just letting kind of things go that shouldn't have, and then now I've got to make this up. Can I just encourage you to strive for excellence? We forget that little things make a big difference. You're building character, you're building children, and every moment counts. Now, again, there's the balance there. Do your best. You can't wallow in guilt and pity either. You can't say, well, I didn't do all these other things right. Let's strive for excellence, right? Shoot for the very best. And God will take that, and God will make great things come out of it. I think it's important for you to have outside voices, other women in this church that will be honest with you. They'll be honest with you. You think, I don't want someone in my life like that who's going to tell me all the things I'm doing wrong. But it may be that they'll tell you you're doing things right, and you're being a little hard on yourself. So it's important for you to have those kind of people in your life, and there's a room full of them. I'm looking at them right now that you would really benefit from. Let me give you then some things to remember. Number one, your work is working and producing. The things you're doing are not just for today, but for the future. Verse 31, notice it says, give her of the fruit of her hands. Let her reap the reward. She planted, let her sow. And that's what kind of today is about. All these videos hopefully showed you that you are very much loved. It was not hard to get these videos, even for people who really don't like showing up in front of a camera, and especially don't like having a camera video that's going to be shown to a whole church of people. And yet they did, because that's the fruit of your hands, the fruit of your work. Keep going, even and especially when you feel like quitting, even and especially when you feel like this isn't worth it. Don't listen to the lies of Satan. Galatians chapter 6, verse 9 says, let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. I'll say number two, then, there are many blessings to come. Notice the rewards that come, because we like the reward part. And so I would be remiss if I just talked about all the work she did and didn't talk about the things that are great about her that she gets recognized for. Verse 25, strength and honor are her clothing. She has a good reputation. Verse 31, give her of the fruit of her hands and let her own works praise her in the gate. It's okay to take the compliment when it's earned by you. I think that's a wonderful thing, especially today. Look at verse number 28. Her children recognize the good that she does. Her children rise up and call her blessed. She's blessed, and they're blessed to have known her and to have her in their life. And even that, verse 28, she'll also get the praise of her husband. Her husband also, and he praiseth her. Listen, it is a hard work to do, but it's vastly the most rewarding thing you can ever do. I appreciate teachers, I appreciate doctors, I appreciate all the different people that do all the different things in our world. And can I say that mothers have, I'll say it, the most important job, because you are shaping the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. You're shaping your kids, yes, your grandkids, yes, your great-grandkids, yes, and generations. What you do now matters. Don't let that crush you. God's grace is there to help you, but this is for you to think on and consider. Let me just encourage you, verse 30. Favor is deceitful Beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. It's less about work. Don't leave here and be like, well, I guess I better get to work. Now, Pastor Hawn just talked about all that work we have to do. No, it's the grace of the Lord. We work on fearing the Lord, and let all of your work come out of grace. Let all of it come out of fearing the Lord and your relationship to him. Let everything you do, let everything you cook, everything you clean, every Band-Aid you put on, let every word that's spoken to them, let everything that you do be a matter of worship to the Lord. And let that then make the virtuous woman that the Bible talks about.